You had your chance and then you blew it.
That is the most absurd statement of the year.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, baby.
I'm in my zone, I'm feeling it.
Live from West St. Paul Studios, it's time for MinneZona Sports Live with DJ Matty C and Paul the Shield Vold.
And this is MinneZona Sports Live. We are back. Yes, episode 195 episodes.
Wow.
That is a lot, and we are getting closer and closer and closer to 200. So we can't wait for that. But without further ado, I'm your host, DJ Matty C, a.k.a. Matt Callan, a.k.a. Callie, a.k.a. Matty C, etc., 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 and all the way from Granite City Studios in St. Cloud, Minnesota, Paul Voldy, Shield. What's going on there, Shield?
Holy cow, we got a lot of things we got to mention. Of course, with the official kickoff to summer, that was Memorial Day weekend. Hopefully everybody had a wonderful, safe, and happy Memorial Day weekend. Of course, we got one team in the NBA Finals. Hopefully we will find one out here maybe later on this week, maybe early next week we'll find out. But hey, shout out to the Celtics making it back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals champions yet again, and back in the NBA Finals too. But man, we've got lots in store here. We're on the countdown to number 200 already, man. We're 5 episodes away. It is crazy.
More details on that in the coming weeks, and we will have a lot to talk about. So, Shield, to start off the show, and, Seymour, he's been very faithful to the show these past couple weeks.
Of course. That's our dog.
He has a question for you to start off the show tonight.
Yes.
Can Shield name the 5 best rappers of all time? Shield.
See, that's an easy answer right there. It is Dylan, and then Dylan. I spit hot fire. You're too close, man.
There you go.
I quote that all the time. It's from the Chappelle Show, Making the Band. Nowadays probably wouldn't last too long because it references Diddy, that whole saga as well. We'll leave that at that. I quote that all the time. Sarah even says it too. I finally showed her for the first time. It popped up on my Insta feed, and that clip as well. And she's like, "So that's where that came from?" It's like, yes, that is the deepest of deep cuts right there. But shout out to my guy C Money, Seymour as well. We used to throw that back and forth to each other a lot during our SMSU days. So. Good times.
Go Mustangs. And, speaking of SMSU, too, I decided to look into my hat collection, and let's go William Jessup University. Shout out to Coach Payne, our guy Coach Payne. We'll have to check in, see where he's at with things. His Warriors didn't do as well as he hoped. And the how are the Giants doing? Do we know or no?
Yes. To that answer. They're doing. They're still a team.
They're still a team. Yeah. They're out
still
there. Whoa, Shield, wearing Celtics jersey, a sign he's given up on the Wolves?
So, hey, it's Kevin Garnett, though. So they're still in the back. In the back, there's still some glimmer there. I can't even tell you the last time I owned a T-Wolves jersey. I think I had Corey Brewer. Was the last time I had a Timberwolves jersey. So
he had that 50-point game that one time. Hey,
that one
he
time.
Had some good games.
27 years ago it took place. So
true, that's true. Perfect segue. Tater Tot Hot Take tonight is all Timberwolves. We're going to talk about their win against the Mavs, and when we ended the show on Wednesday, we gave you live updates and everything like that. And it has gone downhill since then. The Wolves were down 3-0 until last night. And, not going well for our Wolves. Unfortunately, we'll talk about that. No, and then, Voldy, you are going to be talking about you gave the zoners a snippet. You gave them a snippet on last Wednesday, but now you're going to be talking about baseball, the whole numbers and stuff like that are worthless in some respects too. So that'll be tonight completely. And Air A, of course, as always, we're talking about the Vikings signing Reisner, JJ on the way, hopefully. And Harrison Butker has gotten himself into hot water with with everybody almost. And the NFLPA and the overhaul the offseason, who knows? We shall see. NCAA Power 5 allow schools to pay athletes, and then Jimmy Buckets back to Philly ? So that'll be on the docket. We got some great Shield shout-outs as always. So let's get it going with some Tater Tot Hot Take.
Fresh out of the oven, it's Tater Tot Hot Take.
All right, you know what time it is. It's time for some Tater Tot Hot Take tonight. Like I said, we're going Wolves, and they have life. The Wolves lost the first 3 games, and 2 of them at home, unfortunately. And yeah, you can sound this. It wasn't great, but I will say they were all close games. The Wolves just really couldn't finish, and you got to give credit where credit's due to, unfortunately, Kyrieirving and lukadoncic. They've been a killer in this series versus the Wolves. The Wolves have shot themselves in the foot a couple times, but then again, there are a lot of bad calls. But again, it's not the reason why they lost, but maybe in game 1. But, we'll leave it at that. So last night, the Wolves go out and win 105-100. They're not done yet. The history of the NBA, no one has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit and won. It came close, was it last year with the Celtics, I believe?
Correct. They forced it all the way to game 7, but they could not.
Tatum got hurt, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And so, maybe they probably would have if he was playing. Or wasn't hobbled. I can't remember. Anyway, but
that was last year.
Yeah, last year. So, last night, for my opinion and the zoners, I'm curious what your opinions are in Shield, as always. I mean, is it too far-fetched to say maybe they can get this done? They're coming back to Minnesota tomorrow, and then you not only have to win this, you have to win 3 straight games now. Okay, right. This is not an easy task. Dude. So the Wolves have to be, ready to go, and they have not been good at home. I mean, the last win that they had was against the Denver Nuggets when they kicked the crap out of them. It was like 100 and whatever to 70. So beat them by like 45. So we need to see those Wolves hopefully tomorrow. But Shield, just kind of give me your overview of the series so far, and then my second question after that is, do you believe the Wolves can get this done? And by this time on Wednesday, are they tied it up or are they winning it? What do you got?
Well, really, you look at how the series has really all come down and started off too. I think when the Mavericks came to town, they're really playing with really nothing to lose at this point. Really kind of hobbling into this series as well. Luka's been on the fringe. A couple other guys have been kind of hampered with injuries too. But then they just came out and they just, punched Timberwolves right in the mouth, honestly, and just were able to grind. They've been able to finish games. That's kind of the big thing out of all of it. Yes, some questionable calls in game 1 and game 2. Timberwolves haven't done themselves any favors. Late turnovers, bad decisions, Luka making Rudy Gobert look silly, and Cat also having more foul trouble. Those are a lot of things that have really, really hurt the Timberwolves throughout the season and also into the playoffs too. Saw it in the series against Denver, saw it a little bit early on in that Suns series as well with Cat and also the foul trouble, but just overall, just bad timing when it comes to the execution of everything. Of course, Gobert, switching up and also matching up with Luka has not worked at all, to say the least. And me being the elite basketball mind that is on this program, it ain't good. It ain't good at all. And just from the other side with Dallas, I think Dallas is really at a point too where they're just like, hey, we're happy because of the fact that we've got a halfway hobbling Luka. We've got guys coming off the bench that are halfway hurt. Kyrie is looking like vintage Kyrie at this point too, and just putting up shots and, obviously weaving his way through like he is, like he was on the Cavs again, 2016 Cavs Kyrie. He is certainly doing his fair share of the work in all that when it comes to obviously being up now 3-1. The way that we saw in game 4 also, again, came down to the wire. A lot of these games coming down to the very end, and that's where Dallas has really proved themselves to be, the upper hand on this one. You don't want to say that the experience is starting to kick in, but in these high pressure situations, it certainly helps to have a couple of guys on there that have the experience and are those guys that can finish out a game or two, whether it be regular season, whether it be playoffs, or in this time, a chance to go to the NBA Finals at the same point. But putting it all together now for game 4, I felt like maybe the Mavs just all right, we'll just we'll get out of town here. We'd like to finish off with a win and get into the finals as well at home, but we're not going to lose any sleep if we lose game 5. Now, to answer the ultimate question here, do the Timberwolves force it to 7, win, go to the NBA Finals? Look, at this point, we're all in. My chips are pushed in. I'm putting a second mortgage on the house. I'm putting a lien on my kid's future. I'm putting all the money on Ant and the Timberwolves to go ahead and do something stupid and put the Timberwolves in the NBA Finals. But hey, if I'm wrong, wouldn't be the first time I'm wrong. Wouldn't be the first time I'm wrong here in the last 20 minutes, even before the show, too. You know what? Let's say screw it. Yeah. Timberwolves is going to force it to 7 because you know what? The way the playoffs have gone, and this is Minnesota sports, you cannot rule out anything at all.
You can't.
Ant's going to put up 50 points in the next 3 games, and he's going to carry the team into the finals. We'll throw that out there too.
Hashtag Wolves in 7. Wolves in 7. I like it, Voldy. Just for the sake of the zoners and myself and other people, I will not be making a prediction for this because it has not gone well for myself. So I am just going to let it ride, man, and just enjoy the ride. I want the Wolves to win in 7. I'm not saying that they're going to or they're not going to, but I am rooting for them to win this series. Voldy, you brought up a lot of good points. The one thing that I think needs to be addressed, and we talked about it before the show too, is karlanthonytowns with his dumb ass fouls. If you're fouling somebody at half court, you should not be on the floor. Now, with that being said, we have defended Cat on many occasions, and we are big defenders of Cat because, again, this is a very good basketball player, and he has been great for 9 years with the Wolves. Now, again, the teams haven't been great and everything like that, but listen, I think that Cat is going to be much more focused now, especially, you look at that game last night, he was 4 or 5 from 3. He was fantastic. Yes. But the one thing that Charles and Sir Charles and Shaq begged Cat to do, and what we've been begging Cat to do since the Denver series, and I guess the Suns too, is to drive to the basket. Look, dude, you've got the body. You got the body to get down there. You can score on these fools. And it showed. He can do it. He can get to the basket. He can finish. Now, I think if Cat realizes I don't have to shoot from 3 all the time, you don't. But if you have an open look and you are hitting threes at a consistent rate, you're in good shape. He was 4 of 5. We talked about it. He got to the basket. Now, that's the only thing that I'm peeved about. But I want to give Cat the benefit of the doubt, though, Voldy and Zoners, because he got called on some bogus ones too. You know, he obviously, there's the obvious ones, but Rudy had a little bit of that too. There were some that were ticky-tack and whatnot. Like the foul when Doncic hit the 3 to be only down 3 points. That one on Ant was garbage. I'm sorry, and that was absolutely BS. That shot, or that foul, and obviously that shot was ridiculous. But that's what Doncic has been doing this whole series: is hitting tough shots. And there's only so much you can do as a defense and everything like that. But speaking of that, another thing that they did well is that they put Kyle Anderson on Luka and Jaden McDaniels, so I think it was kind of like a mix of both of those guys. Or no, excuse me. They put Ant on Luka, and then they put Jaden McDaniels on Kyrie. I thought I had that right. I think that's right. But it shows, hey, you know, you can contain a little bit with Luka and his shooting, and you have length to try and, you know, maybe swat a couple. And the thing about Luka, and this is driving me nuts, because I think this needs to be more exposed in the next game tomorrow, is the dude doesn't play defense. He just stands there. If you've seen any of there's clips on the social medias. If you look on X, there are clips of him just literally standing there barking out orders. He doesn't do anything. And I think he was posted up against Gobert, but like that one time. But I'm telling you, if you force him to play defense, he's going to get tired, and we can take advantage of that. Let's take advantage of that here in Game 5. So I'm feeling good about that, because I think they noticed that, because when Cat hit that big 3 in the 4th, Kyle Anderson kind of knew, like, this dude's not even, like, doing anything. He's just standing there, and he gets Cat open with the screen, nails the 3. More of that. So, the question is, well, how do the Mavericks counter that and everything like that? So, it's going to be a chess match, you know? Yeah. So, we'll see how that matchup goes. But, you know, kind of going back to the, you know, series that we were talking about, you know, those first 3 games, they're in it. I mean, they're not getting blown out.
No.
They just made some boneheaded mistakes. Now, there were some calls, like the putback on Game 1 with Cat was absolutely horrendous call. It's like, well, it was close. There's no way that ball was going in, and it's not going to, you know, it didn't make any sense. And obviously that was the end-all, be-all right there. Then you have Luka on Gobert, like you mentioned, Voldy, and that showed a lot of people like, oh, see, Gobert just sucks. He's just terrible. Well, when you got him on a scorer like that, and he's not down in the paint, that's pretty tough to cover. And Nazreid was really instrumental in that game too. He was nailing 3s left and right. Oh, by the way, acknowledge your tribal chief, Nazreid, before we even do anything. And speaking of Nazreid, this past game too, he got the Wolves up to inbound play. Kyrie wasn't. Hey, guess what? Kyrie wasn't playing defense either. Goes right by Kyrie, lays it in. Wolves go up 105-100, and that was the final score. So Nazreid, our guy, props out. He missed that 3-pointer to have the Wolves, you know, possibly win Game 2. So then we're completely talking about, you know, it's 2-2. So then we go from there. But the fact that he was able to, you know, hit in those moments is something that we need to see more of from the bench. We have to see Nazreid, you know, keep keep hitting those threes. Nickeil Alexander-Walker's finally starting to hit some shots now. We need a little bit more from Jaden McDaniels because basically what's happening is Luka is somewhat guarding him, because he's like, well, he's not going to score on me, and everything. So maybe we take advantage of that, use McDaniels to our advantage. So, with that being said, looking ahead to this Game 5, Voldy and Zoners, there's a couple of things that I want to talk about for this game. One, the target center is going to be just loud as hell. Because guess what? People believe that this team can, complete this comeback. Now, I don't want... am I a believer? Hell yeah, I'm a believer with this team. Yeah, why not? But I need to see them be more consistent and not have Cat in foul trouble, not have Gobert in foul trouble. Because guess what? We need those guys. And Nas can come in. The thing is they're good enough to make this series much more interesting than being, losing those first three. Now, the one thing that I think that they can do is that they will have to expose Luka on defense because he's not playing anything on defense really much. You have that center, I think Gaffney or something like that, who's the guy literally only just blocks shots and has dunks. So figure out a way to stop letting them do these stupid alley-oops because it's driving me nuts. So we got that, and they weren't able to hit. PJ Washington didn't play well last game, so they got to take advantage of that. And Kyrie was not good from three. He was 1 of 6 from three. So Voldy, Zoners. With that being said, Anthony Edwards was fantastic in the key moments. 29 points, 11 of 25 shooting, and whatnot, and 9 assists last night, 10 rebounds. So he was doing it all. We need to see more from Ant as well in this game. Scoring and whatnot, but he was clutch, and Ant is going to bring it. I'm telling you, he's going to bring it. Cat's going to bring it. They're going to be raring to go. So, Voldy, do the Wolves get, since you did say Wolves in 7, can you give me a score prediction for Game 5? What do you
Game 5.
Yeah.
I will go Game 5 score 109-107 Timberwolves.
Oh, another spine tingler. It
has to be the rest of the way. There can't be
literally
any blowout.
Yeah. Can't be a blowout, right?
Nope.
Voldy, there's been rumors too. There's been rumors that that jersey you're wearing, even though it is not a Timberwolves jersey, Kevin Garnett has been rumored to maybe be showing up Game 5. There's been on the socials media some talk. If that happens,
stick it to Glenn Taylor.
Right.
Just to stick it to him.
Maybe he goes over there and takes his
Pimp
spot or
slaps him.
something like that.
That'd be in my seat, boss.
Yeah. You have A-Rod and Mark Lowry stand in front of him and be like, get out of here, man. What are you going to do? You don't have security. Get out of here.
Yeah, seriously.
So if that happens, I'm telling you, it would be hard for any Wolves fan to say, I don't think they're winning this game. You know what I mean? If KG's there, exactly. That target center's top is going to blow right off, and he is going to, and the Wolves, I think, are going to be pretty amped up, and they're going to be ready to go. So,
and if they lose, I'm expecting Minnesota to react the way Vancouver lost Game 7, 2011 Stanley Cup Final, setting cop cars on fire, rioting in the streets. I hope not either, but we're not losing Game 5. That's the thing. But if we do lose,
Kirko, chill.
I need anarchy in the streets. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
And then maybe you will burn down the target center. Who knows?
Hey, somebody might.
Somebody might.
I'm not saying it's me. Legally, I am not saying that.
Yeah, we technically, no one heard anything in regards to that.
The views and opinions expressed here on MinneZona Sports Live do not reflect those expressed on the show of MinneZona Sports Live according to our legal representation, i.e. me.
You
You're
went
welcome.
back to the old SMSU disclaimer, ID, all that stuff. I love it.
It's in there.
I love it.
It's in there. It never leaves you.
Still, yeah, it never really does. I mean, shoot, we should read some of the old PSAs. How about that? That'd be some cool stuff. I mean,
Oh, boy. That's accepted.
well, he did revamp them a little bit, so
A
there
little
was
bit.
some good stuff. But anyway, hashtag Wolves in 7, go Wolves, hashtag Wolves back, and oh, by the way,
I have not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring your ass.
bring that ass to Target Center, baby. Let's go. Let's go, Wolves. Let's get this done, man. Let's make history. Why not? Mike Conley, he said, guys, do it for, I don't know how many years I have left. Do it for Mike Conley. Do it for KG.
Do it.
And Edwards, make history. That's what I'm talking about. Let's get some positivity in this town. Let's do it. All right. With that being said, we will see what happens tomorrow. Hopefully, by this time next week, we're talking about the Wolves maybe going to the NBA Finals. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
So, switching gears to baseball, Voldy, last week you talked about some quote-unquote stupid stats and stuff that is in baseball right now. And I think it is smart to go to the Temple of Wisdom and talk about this in full. And I believe, Voldy, you did tell me that there are some surprises throughout this. So I say we go to the Temple of Wisdom and see what Voldy has in store for us and what he will do to enlighten us.
He has emerged from the Temple of Wisdom. Gather round for Voldy's virtues.
All right, welcome to the Temple of Wisdom. Bow your heads, and Voldy, enlighten us.
Well, before we get started with anything, we really have to set the tone the proper way when it comes to Voldy's virtues. So if you give me a moment.
Oh. Whoa. Whoa. Uh-oh. What? Huh?
Oh, that's not as easy as it looks.
Woo.
There we go.
There we go. Yeah.
Woo! All right. There we go. That's how you set the tone here.
Here we go.
All just fun. All right. Starting off, as you could probably see in the lower third below me, numbers. They are ruining baseball. Number of times here on the show when talking about baseball, we have talked about the fact that baseball has decided to start to bring up over the last 5, 6, 10 years or so sabermetrics and obviously the numbers that continue to water down the sport, that information sharing, and thus ruining the game. In a world full of information continuing to find ways to critique people down to the most minute detail, sports has not shied really away from the following of this trend, with baseball obviously being at the forefront of said trend of advanced statistics. Now, like I said, a couple of times in recent weeks, and obviously over the length of the program, we have seen some rants from yours truly on some of the advanced statistics to throw at fans and how their team is doing. But, and in short, I know that we have had this conversation a few times in the past, but yet there's just another reminder, and once again, numbers are ruining baseball. Let's first take a look at some of these so-called stats that have caught my eye, and really just, I don't agree with why this is a stat or why we even need to be talking about this and how they are measured and what they actually mean. Let's start off here. Of course, one thing when it comes to baseball is obviously being a two-way player, whether it be on offense or defense. Take a look on the defensive side. One stat that I don't understand is range factor, which is determined by dividing the sum of a fielder's putouts and assists by his total number of defensive games played. So, in short, can he play defense or not? If he can't, thank goodness there is the universal DH for some of these said teams. And that is another story to be had, and also conversations and said rant on Voldy's virtues. Another stat I think is completely erroneous and irrelevant is the BABIP, BABIP, if you will, batting average of balls in play, which is a player's batting average exclusively on balls hit into the field of play, removing outcomes not affected by the opposing team's defense, which is namely home runs and strikeouts. For 3 true outcomes with that. So whether it's a line drive, line out, swing the butt, 500-foot home run, dribbler up the Ryne, etc., if it's a hit or an out, doesn't matter. Can he get hits? Can he not get out? That's all I need to know. Another stat that I think is a completely stupid thing to even think of or even talk about is LIPS. That's LIPS. Late inning pressure situation. Yes, this is an actual stat for advanced statistics and obviously with sabermetrics in baseball, which is defined as any at-bat in the 7th inning or later where the batter's team trails by 3 or fewer runs, is tied, or is ahead by only 1 run. If the bases are loaded and the batting team trails by 4 runs, this also counts as a late inning pressure situation. Look, can the guy get the job done in the 8th or 9th inning or not? Plain and simple. Why do we need a number for that? Is he clutch? Is he not? I can tell you, plain and simple. Is he clutch? Is he not? Yes or no? Win probability added. Yes, those 3 words strung together are a stat. WPA. That is win probability added. A percentage change in the team's chances of winning from one vent to the next. It does so by measuring the importance of a given plate appearance in the context of the game. Now, when I hear this, and I also read the description of this, it reminds me of something an old SMSU baseball teammate by the name of Jason Manette used to bring up to me. He said, it relates to the weather. It's either going to rain 0% or 100%. How can you have 60% of rain on a given day? So either the team's going to win or the team's going to lose. It's either 100% or 0%. Nothing more or less. My personal favorite one that we're going to talk about. Wins above replacement, which is a player's value in all facets of the game by deciphering how many more wins he's worth than a replacement level player at his same position. So one guy has a higher wins above replacement than another guy. Look, here's my 2 cents on wins above replacement and how stupid it is. If a guy has been 10 years in the minors and says that he's got a better win above replacement than a guy who's just barely scraping by, is making the major league minimum and he's bouncing back and forth through the lineup or not, it's probably not that good to be moving up the ladder if the guy in front of him says is even still on the major league team. So if you're Jackson Holiday in this sense, you go from playing high school and then 2 years later, you're making your major league debut at Fenway Park. Seems to me that he's got a pretty good track record to even fast track through the minors and even play in the major leagues shortly after his time, even in high school, through college, now at the major league level. So don't tell me that a guy like Ben Revere has a better wins above replacement than Kirby Puckett. One guy is better, one guy is not. When playing for the Twins, obviously, they either won with him in the lineup or they didn't. Facts are facts. The last one I want to talk about is bequeathed runners and bequeathed runners scored. Now, that is the number of runners left on base by a pitcher when that pitcher leaves the game. Any bequeathed runner who scores on an earned run after a pitcher has left the game will be counted towards that pitcher's earned run average, or ERA. Actually, I'm not even mad about this one. If there's any chance that we could say the word bequeathed on MinneZona Sports Live, I'm pretty happy about that. But wrapping up everything and getting back to the statement as well. Now that we've looked at some of these quote-unquote numbers, what do they have to do with anything when it comes to the simple things that come down to the game of baseball? Winning and losing. I'll tell you what, they have nothing to do with winning or losing. Can a guy get hits runs, walks, RBI, not strikeout, not make errors in the field. It's that easy. Those are the numbers I need. Now, on the flip side, towards pitching, can he strike out batters? Can he keep walks down? Can he eat up innings? Can he not give up hits and home runs? Again, it's that easy. Excuse me. These fabrications of complete and utter nonsense of information keep filling everyone's heads with garbage in a world that is already a landfill. Sometimes the best answer to whether a guy is good or not is simply yes or no. Not throwing out random numbers to solidify a point that can't be answered in half a second. Is he good? Is he not? Yes or no? That's all I need. So let's just keep things simple. As the world is already complicated enough with too much being thrown at us, because at the end of the day, baseball is just a kid's game. You're telling me that Timmy is scouting Johnny's spin rate on his curveball while also trying to make sure his batted ball rate stays at a high and considerable range so that way coach doesn't cut him from the Little League team? No, he's not doing that. He's out there. He's playing the game. He's getting on base. If he's not, well, he's going to sit on the bench and then somebody else is going to play for him. So please, for the love of God, stop coming up with stats because sometimes we don't need to know everything. Here's what I'd rather like to know. Who killed Kennedy, Tupac, Biggie? Was 9/11 an inside job? Where's Bigfoot? And all other conspiracy theories. Are we alone in the universe? The answer is no, by the way. But that's all the information I need. I don't need wins above replacement. I don't need bequeathed runners and bequeathed runners score. I don't need any of that. Just give me baseball. Is he on base? Is he not? Is he good? Is he bad? The answer to that is yes or no. That is Voldy's virtues.
There's, wow. I mean, there's a lot of information to go through. And Voldy, on this show, we have talked about numerous times about how the sabermetrics and analytics just don't necessarily work. And they're not using it the right way, like you have eloquently put. I'll keep this short, but again, I feel like they're trying to get people interested in the sport by having these things and being like, hey, look at this. No one gives a crap. No one cares. Like, you can't have this and then be like, well, we're going to draw, this is going to be easy for us to put together. The perfect thing that I think we need to do, Voldy, is once we have Coach Bo, Coach Payne, and or Coach Bartle here on this show, we need to ask him this question. Or you need to, because guys, I mean, we got to know, like, hey, I mean, are these, like you've put, here, bequeathed runners and scored, wins above replacement, win probability added? I mean, come on. Like, this is ridiculous. So I'm totally with you on it. I think, getting another perspective too, I think might help, solidify like how dumb this is. So if they use it and they say, listen, actually it's beneficial, let's hear it. So I don't know. Would you agree with that or no? Yeah.
Sometimes we need to hear the other side, and gentlemen in the line of work that we speak of would definitely help in that matter for sure. Also, I just don't want my opinion to get completely thrown out and basically get taken out to the woodshed on my answer. So we may hold off on having those guys on sooner than later. Let's let this argument settle for a while before we have them come on and talk about how much of an idiot I am. So more than usual, I guess.
Oh, come on. They understand. But yeah, I mean, at some point we will get those guys on because, we want to catch up too because go William Jessup, as always. So, great job with Voldy's virtues tonight. Thank you for cracking open that drink and chugging that. That was impressive. So, claps out to you.
I'll have to go with something lighter next time. That was a little too heavy.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm surprised. They got us done.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, and it's cold too. I assume too. So.
Very cold, yes.
Yeah. But these absurd approves are quite hot, Voldy, for this upcoming ARAs. The Vikings signed Dalton Risner about frickin' time. And the point is, who's next? And I think we all know the answer to that. Harrison Butker on his no regrets on his comments. Talk about that. NFLPA, overhaul the offseason. NCAA Power 5 allow schools to pay athletes. And Jimmy Buckets, Jimmy the Snake Butler, going back to Philly? ? That's what we got on deck for AA. So let's get it going. What's up? Or approved. Bang.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Absurd or Approved.
All right, it's time for Absurd or Approved. So, Voldy, why don't you rattle them off for us, please?
Well, the Minnesota Vikings did make some moves here earlier this week and also brought in a much valued asset on the offense. That's right, we're talking about Dalton Risner. Yes, you were probably thinking that we were going to be talking about Justin Jefferson. More on that here in a moment. But yes, the Vikings did re-sign the former Denver Bronco and, of course, played partway through the season with the Minnesota Vikings, Dalton Risner, on the offensive line to a one-year deal. Of course, re-signing backup offensive lineman Blake Brandel to a 3-year contract to help build a little bit more depth, of course, at the left guard position and obviously bolster that line even more. 11 starts for Risner this past year, so that's good to have him back on a much-needed amount of depth that we need on the offensive line. So now that we've got 2 offensive linemen for sure guaranteed, well, where's the big extension that people are looking for with the likes of Justin Jefferson? Now, there have been reports coming out from NFL Insider and Sports Illustrated columnist Albert Breer talking about that there are some reports coming in, of course, with a deal to take place soon. There were some reports in the last few days talking about how the Vikings were looking to move up in the draft and maybe even take former LSU wide receiver Malik Neighbors and also look at moving Justin Jefferson in the process. Now, a lot of those reports have been unfounded and also quickly washed away. But there have been more and more conversations about Jefferson and a deal with the Vikings to be coming here in the very near future. Now, is it absurd or approved that the Vikings will reach a deal for Justin Jefferson before training camp coming up here in the coming, let's see, they usually start training camp, we're probably about at least 2 months
July.
away, I think. Yeah, so probably about 2 months away from that taking place here. Is it absurd or approved? Do we get a deal before training camp?
If I could hit the stamp of approval like a billion times, I would. But It's got my stamp of approval. Listen, to all those writers that have put out that, they wanted to trade with the Giants to get Malik Neighbors and, do a trade with them, X, Y, and Z. This is what I have to say to those writers and that have no merit. And for one, I give a lot of credit to our local reporters here too. Our local reporters, Kevin Seifert and Ben Gessling, are sources I trust dearly. And Kevin Seifert even put in a tweet saying there was no talk with the New York Giants about that. So all those people that are like, the Vikings are going to trade and what are some possible trade destinations. First of all, I just want to say you guys are dumbasses. Because I look at it from this perspective. This is the best wide receiver in the NFL. He deserves to be paid, and it's like, are you going to pay him that $40 million and everything like that? Listen, the Vikings know what they need to do. They know that he is very important to this team. Now, you can come now. Cole Munson kind of, and again, it was in a joking mood and whatnot because we like messing with Munson. But Cole Munson, I put in a tweet that Justin Jefferson will be a Viking, and I'm not going back on that statement. And again, I will put myself up again for absurd statement of the year if this isn't true. But Justin Jefferson is going to sign a deal with the Minnesota Vikings. You can't tell me that he just showed up to a Wolves game just because and because I think they're talking. They're trying to work out a deal, and people want to ignore that. And then there was a report that he was working out at the Jets facility. And that. Where are your sources? This is not confirmed whatsoever. So whenever I hear anything about, Justin Jefferson's going to be traded, things like that, you guys are idiots. I'm sorry. You are. The Minnesota Vikings are going to get a deal done with Justin Jefferson. And that would be the dumbest thing if they let him go and or not, sign him to a big deal. Jared Allen, our guy, Jared Allen, was on the Up and Adams podcast or video podcast, whatever you want to call it. Shout out to Kay Adams. We do like Kay Adams. I did meet Kay Adams, by the way, at the Super Bowl. She was very nice, very nice. But so she asked, are you willing to pay him that money? And Jared Allen said, absolutely. And he gave a really good point by saying, listen, he opens up the run game for you. He opens up more receivers because they're going to be double, triple teaming them, things like that. And you have a quarterback that can actually, get him the ball, and J.J. McCarthy or Sam Darnold at this point, because he's got weapons around him and he can be utilized. Oh, by the way, Aaron Jones is on the team. Jordan Addison. Hawkinson's going to take some time. Now, a sneaky addition that I think could, benefit the Vikings until T.J. Hawkinson comes back, Voldy, Robert Tonyan. The Vikings signed Robert Tonyan from free agency, and he is now a Minnesota Viking. He's gone through all the NFC North. So I think that he'll be a nice fill-in. Ed Oliver's still there. Just got to hold on to the ball and block, and we're good to go in that sense. So this, you can't let him go. You give him that money, and the thing is you can manipulate the cap. You can. It's that simple. So, and I say it to these reporters and these people trying to stir up stuff and thinking that the Vikings are going to trade him. Now, I said this with the Diggs thing, saying, "Oh, they're not going to trade Diggs." But was Diggs our best player on that team at that time? I think that's debatable. So, stamp of approval. The Minnesota Vikings are going to re-sign Justin Jefferson before training camp, and/or it could be during. Who knows? But the thing is, the deal's got to get done. Let's find a way to just get this done, because there's going to be more wide receivers that are going to expect more, like CeeDee Lamb and who's another guy that's looking for a new contract? I know A.J. Brown re-signed. Amon-Ra. There's a whole
Cincinnati, Jamar Chase.
Yes,
T.
Jamar
Higgins.
Chase, T. Higgins. Yep, that's perfect. So, it's got my stamp. They're going to get it done, and they know. And if people are hearing that it's coming soon, then I believe them. So, the trusted sources. So, I will say that. And then also, real quick, Dalton Risner, the 1-year deal, needed to happen. Absolutely, like you said at the beginning. We're happy to have him back. And, again, he had a great year, and we need depth on that O-line right now, because, as the Curve Doctor says, O-line. So, Voldy, what do you got?
I mean, you got to have that depth on the offensive line, because like we always talk during the offseason, we need to be able to protect our quarterback. And, Risner did bring a lot more stability in the back half of the season from that position. It just wish that it would have been for something, even bouncing from, quarterback to quarterback week after week after week. But at least having that experience on that line and a little bit more stability is going to be helpful in the future as well. So that's great to have him. Now on the side of Justin Jefferson, I really look at it here. It's a situation like we talked about with all those guys that are still looking for deals. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and obviously Justin Jefferson, those three guys right there. I think they're all waiting to see who's going to fall first. Like, who's going to sign the deal first and be like, they're going to be the benchmark for the other guys. Like, okay, so he's getting $400 million. Well, I better be getting $500 million or something like that. He's getting, 19 and a half in a season. I better be getting 20 and a half in a season. They're all just trying to one up each other. It's like, this guy is making this much. I'm much better than him, so I should be making a heck of a lot more than him as well. So I kind of see it from that perspective. I think the deal is going to take place. I have a good feeling if it doesn't happen before training camp, it might be in the opening days of training camp for sure. You get there, everybody's around, you get settled into a little bit of routine. Hey, let's just have a quick meeting here. Here's some paperwork, sign that. Boom, there's a contract extension. Let's have a hell of a season, maybe win a title. I think it's definitely going to happen. I got my stamp of approval on it. I think the deal is definitely going to happen. If not before training camp, definitely in the opening days or maybe even opening week of training camp too.
We gotta have JJ. We got to have JJ. That's priority number one. Kwesi and his agent, JJ's agents, have been working tirelessly to find that deal, and they're going to. I'm giving you guys hope. It's gonna happen. So, all right. Next one, Voldy.
Well, if you would think coming out of Kansas City and obviously the back-to-back Super Bowl champions and also a much rough offseason from them, you'd be thinking it'd be from the guys like, I don't know, the house of Mahomes, Travis Kelce, maybe even somebody on the defense. No, we're talking about Harrison Butker, the kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs, in a much rough few weeks that he has had in expressing of his beliefs in a recent commencement speech that did take place at Benedictine College in Kansas, where he said that most women receiving degrees were probably more excited about getting married and having kids, argued some of the leaders of the Catholic faith as well, expressing his beliefs in some of the comments that were believed to be controversial at the time as well, referring to, quote, a deadly sort of pride that has a month dedicated to it in a reference to Pride Month. He also took aim at some of the policies set forth by President Joe Biden and obviously the reversal of the Roe versus Wade 1973 decision and all of the comments that went along with it. Yes, there has been public outcry for his comments as well, on both sides of it being a shocking level of hate and also receiving support as well. Looking at the full conversation that has taken place and the comments that were made, teammates coming to bat for him, at least saying that he is entitled to his beliefs, even though he doesn't always agree, or said some teammates like Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, saying that, obviously he is entitled to his beliefs, yet we don't always agree with what he has to say. They can look past that and look forward to a much stronger goal of everything that is in front of them, at least at the professional level in professional football. But do you think it's absurd or prove that more drama in the Kansas City locker room, as if they could handle any more, will push them back from being the first team to three-peat in the given common Super Bowl era?
Well, for one, we're not going to get into like what he said and what we believe about it. I just feel like we're kind of going from the football aspect of this, and
Yep.
I just think, and again, if it sounds like whatever he's believing in and everything like that, he has a right to it. But again, I don't think he was doing that to shame the Chiefs organization or anything like that. But, there's definitely things I don't agree with what he said. But I'm not going to send him a hate mail for it. Right. And here's from the football perspective. I would say it's absurd just because I don't think that's going to affect them more. That's not going to affect them as much as them trying to three-peat, like you just said. And that is a very tough thing to do in the NFL, as we've seen before. We've seen back-to-backs and everything like that. But another thing that I do want to bring up, too, is that you have the whole Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce thing, and, a lot of people are just waiting for that moment where they lose in the playoffs or they lose at some point during the season, and then people can go after them and everything like that, And I say going after them as in social media and memes and things like that. But I don't necessarily think that this specifically is going to distract them from doing that and everything like that. I mean, there might be a lot of booze, and and I don't mean booze as in alcohol, but booze as in this when he's kicking or something at an opposing field, maybe at Arrowhead, we'll see. But I just want it to be known that I don't think this is going to, and the NFL, I think the NFL said too, views are not those of the NFL as an organization. So they've distanced themselves and whatnot. But again, I don't think it's going to be as bad as, or it's not going to affect them. People are going to like forget about it in a couple weeks or a month or so, and they'll just kind of go from there. But just don't make headlines that are just don't make the headlines that are bad. You know what I mean? Don't say anything stupid. Don't just go out there like as a team and just try to win that three-peat. So yeah, I think it's absurd. I don't think it's going to affect them that much once we kick off here in September. So Voldy, what do you think?
Yeah, I can see it obviously from both sides when you talk about the platform that he was on, and obviously the choice were the words that he did throw out as well. At the end of the day, you can hear the words. You may not agree with it. You may agree with it. That's for you to decide. What you do with those words is completely up to you. Beyond that, if you are upset by it, you are entitled to that. He's entitled to his opinion. We both go on with our days, and we live with it at the same time. Is this going to hold them back from three-peating? No, I don't think this is going to hold them back at all. It'll certainly make things very interesting come crunch time and how that all comes down to maybe him making a late field goal once or twice this year, maybe in a playoff situation. That'll be very interesting to see how that all comes to play for this season. But is it going to hold them back? No, I don't think it will. Them barring the entire team picking up and moving to Montana, no. Nothing's going to stop them this year, really, even though the AFC and the whole NFL will certainly be a very good competition this year. A lot of teams have improved, and we'll see those teams that maybe had some promise last year hopefully make that next step, and especially coming out of the AFC for sure.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Like the Bengals getting Joe back.
The Jets
with Rages. I'm trying to think of another. And Dolphins, I guess.
The Fins, the Ravens, Houston, Tennessee,
Houston.
Indy.
I'm not gonna say Buffalo because I think there's a lot that they need to. We'll see though. I mean, you still got Josh Allen, but they're
True.
Still
Can't do it all himself though.
That's right. That's exactly right. So, next one, Voldy.
Well, we are in the midst of the on-roll of the offseason with the NFL and, of course, offseason programming leading up to the start of the season. Of course, training camp still a number of weeks away, but the NFL Players Association has made a stride forward and even letting NFL owners know that they are planning to, quote, overhaul the offseason as soon as 2025. This is the Players Association talking about with total elimination of voluntary spring workouts and organized team activities, or OTAs, which teams are currently in the midst of as well. Instead of having these workouts and OTAs, they are sending a proposal in favor of a longer training camp ramp up with players reporting in mid-June to early July. Now, this would also shift, of course, the OTA style ramp up of off-season programming, moving that up, talking about strength and conditioning, padded work, etc., straight into training camp as well. So you go from that to this as opposed to OTAs, get like a month off or so, then right into, obviously, the start of training camp. Now, with all this being played out in forth as well, it would go right into training camp with a 6-week breakdown de-escalation period in between from OTAs into training camp. That's the current format. They're talking about just pushing them together right from OTAs into training camp, start of the season from there.
Right.
Now, there has been a level of support. A majority of NFL players say they like the proposed change, so that way there isn't time in between. Some things can happen even with the new guys and some of the younger players, so that way they can get settled in and obviously get a full sense of the team right into training camp and then thus the start of the season. This also would propose, this said proposal would also like to help and strive for reducing injuries and maximize players' recovery time from the previous season, because obviously a lot of teams that do go and make that deep run aren't even over with their season until second week of February, and then 6 weeks later here's OTAs. 6 weeks later after that it's training camp, and off you go as well. So then having that 2-month time period, at least a minimum 2 if not 3-month time in between, you get a much better time to recover from that. With it all being said, with this proposal sent out by the NFL Players Association, is it absurd to approve? Could these changes to the offseason benefit players and even help with the reduction of injuries going forward?
I think so. I feel like there were a lot of significant injuries last year. Joe Burrow being one, Kirk Cousins being one, and Aaron Rodgers, unfortunately. But again, it's still. I mean, there were a lot of, there's Achilles, there was elbow with a Burrow, and you got Nick Chubb like almost blowing up his knee completely. So there's a lot of that, and obviously they do the rehab. They do surgery, then rehab, and they try to get back into shape and whatnot. And I think the NFL's starting to kind of realize, like, hey, we can't be pushing these guys as much as. And again, you added an extra game and you add an extra football team to the wild card playoff. Now, I don't think that this has anything that is negative, I feel like. And if the players can recover within that time, the virtual meetings, I think, are interesting. I think they'll, definitely figure out ways with Zoom or Microsoft Teams or however you want to do it. I think Microsoft is actually a partner, so I'd assume it'd probably be Teams. But anyway, but then there's the interest of adding an extra game. You get rid of the preseason, and I'd be fine with that. Let's be honest. But I think if they're leaning more towards extra game, get rid of the preseason, and then have this plan in place, I say it's got my stamp of approval. I like this. I think it's fair to both sides, and we'll see if it comes into fruition. I'm a fan of it. I think it's going to work. So, Voldy, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the way that the NFL is kind of trending, even Roger Goodell talking about making it 2 preseason games and an 18-game schedule, you're going to need that time off for sure, especially the Players Association kind of getting a leg up on the NFL to at least say, hey, look, if we're going to be trending towards this 18-game schedule, we need more time off, or at least changing of the offseason. It's still going to be the same amount of time. Obviously with OTAs into training camp, now we just need to push things together. It's very similar to the model that they had when during the COVID season as well, where it was just like, hey, we got a little bit of OTAs, here's training camp. Oh, we're right into playing games right after that. A lot of guys talking about, obviously with the longer time from the previous season into the start of the following year, they had more time to recover, more time to rest, heal up from, some nagging injuries, and then just go out there and play ball. And it obviously worked for a lot of teams that year. I think this is definitely the right start. I think it comes down to being in a situation where they can be proactive in setting up for that 18-game schedule, but saying like, if we're gonna do this, we need that time, for guys that are coming off the previous year to get their surgeries, get recovered, so that way we're not missing OTAs and we're not missing out on, roster bonuses and showing up to practices and all those contract incentives just because, we're still banged up from last year. It doesn't mean that it's not like we don't want to be there. It's we physically can't be there. If you can have that time, the only really thing that's going to hurt is obviously the rookies coming in too, because OTAs is that time where you get to meet and hang out with some of the older guys in the team, kind of get, acclimated to everything. But when they get drafted and then like 2 weeks later, you're at OTAs or, whatever with that, some, rookie mini camp type stuff, that's where they start to at least get comfortable, get to know, coaches, where they're living, where to go, where to live, things of that sort. But if you take that time and push it later, you're going to be learning about your team. You're going to be learning about some of the older guys. You're going to be learning about the city. Oh yeah, by the way, we'll see you on Sunday to play, an actual game and everything. So there's a lot being thrown at them all at once. That's where the kind of the downfall is. But I feel like a lot of players and a lot of teams will make their due diligence and at least striving for that team cohesion a little bit early on. But I think with the plan that they have in place for them for a formal proposal to be sent later this year, it'll definitely be putting in the right track for sure. So it's definitely got my stamp of approval.
Another thing too, and I think TJ Hawkinson obviously had the torn ACL and towards the end of the season, and he's not going to be back till he's probably going to be out a month here coming up. So I think this would be very beneficial for guys that get hurt later in the season, and then kind of go from there. But even though that was an absolute cheap shot, but that's for another time. All right, next one, Voldy.
Well, the NCAA has finally stuck the last nail in the coffin of amateurism and its Power 5 conferences, as they are now have an agreement to allow schools to directly pay players for the first time in the 100-plus years of college sports. And the NCAA and its leagues are moving forward with a multi-billion-dollar agreement to settle 3 pending federal antitrust cases, paying out $2.7 billion in damages over 10 years to its past and current college athletes as well, saying that the parties have agreed to the revenue sharing plan to allow each school to share up to roughly $20 million per year with its athletes in the NCAA. Of course, this talking about with the NIL and now players past, present, and even future to get a slice of the pie, if you will, from all the millions and even billions of dollars made off name, image, and likeness in years past and even currently as well. With it all coming into a head now, billions of dollars in settlement money now being divided to athletes at the collegiate level. Is it absurd to approve with now finally paying athletes? Will it directly coming from the schools will cause even more headaches in the future when it comes to obviously the NIL and now athletes getting paid to play college sports?
Well, I'm sure the athletes are fine with getting paid and everything like that.
Right.
It just they just continue to, put things out there that they think are going to be beneficial and whatnot. And this is only, I think the quote here, and I agree with this too, the settlement, though undesirable in many respects and promising only temporary stability, is necessary to avoid what would be the bankruptcy of college athletics. And that was Notre Dame President John I. Jenkins. A temporary solution, and, this goes above my head with money, because, I'm just fine knowing how much I got in my bank account. That's about it. But I look at this and I think, okay, if you're only doing this as a temporary solution, why do it at all, right? And again, they want to put Band-Aids on stuff and think that, it's fine, we're good to go. No, this doesn't sound like it's beneficial for them. And if you're getting bankrupt in college athletics, well, that's a pretty big issue, to say the least. So, I think this is going to be this might get messy, and some of these guys or some of these schools aren't fans of, doing this. And, again, they got to worry about, other sports in this as well, too. So, yeah, I think it's absurd. I think this is a temporary solution, and it's not going to benefit in the long run. So, I think there's got to be another way to figure this out. So, Voldy, what do you think?
Never have I wanted guys to get paid more under the table than I do right now, because this is just getting more and more out of hand. Look, I have no problem with college athletes getting paid. The big names, obviously, the big programs that have millions and even billions of dollars from these players that work their tails off for nothing in the past. I have no problem with them getting it, at least some sort of compensation for their work. Especially now, you're throwing in everybody. Obviously, the Power Five schools, ACC, Big 10, Big 12, SEC, and the now defunct Pac-12. I have no problem with them sharing out the money. Now, what does this mean to obviously the smaller schools? I know that right now the Power Five is the one that's focused, but what's going to take for the guys like Utah State, the Wake? Well, I guess Wake Forest is in the ACC, but some of these smaller schools like UMass and all these other schools be like, well, or at least their collegiate athletes be like, well, why aren't we getting paid? Why aren't we getting the money from the university that is benefiting from us? And it's just forcing these colleges to say, well, we're not benefiting from you. We're benefiting from academics, back and forth, to the point where it's just all going to be like, all right, shut up, take the money, when we're now out of a business altogether. I have no problem with athletes getting paid. Now it's getting to a point where does it end? Now we're paying athletes from 2016 to now. Where does it end? Where does athletes from the turn of the century? When's Pat White or Tavon Austin going to come out and say, well, you guys need to pay me for all the for my highlight reel and everything that continues to make waves even still to this day? What's it going to stop for a guy like Deion Sanders or Santana Moss or Warren Sapp back in the day say, you guys benefited from me. I'm the one that brought you guys national championships. I'm the one that, added a new building to this campus. Where's my compensation for all that? Not saying these guys are hurting for money nowadays, but it doesn't stop the where's the line going to be drawn at that point? I think this is just going to cause even more headaches, to the point where some of these schools are going to have to start fighting back a little bit more and put a cap on where things are, and to a point where it's going to be maybe even athletes start to unionize even more, to the point where there will be stoppages. I don't want to say there's going to be work stoppages, but there might be some teams that boycott. There might be athletes that say, no, we're not playing this week, out of solidarity with, our other fellow athletes. USC football is not going to play because Vanderbilt said, no, we're walking out. We're forfeiting our game out of solidarity and not compensation for our right to play. I think it's just going to be even more out of control, to the point where there's going to be backlash on all fronts, whether it be TV deals, whether it be administration, whether it be even fans themselves that, kind of start to throw their hat into the ring. Where does it all end? I think it's got my stamp of approval. There's going to be more headaches further down the road it goes.
Well, that's just kind of how it, it's NCAA. That's all you got to say. And they always do something to mess it all up. So, all right, last one, Voldy.
Well, we know that the Jimmy Butler era in Miami has seen its fair share of highs and lows and everything in between. But even recent reports have started to come out that maybe even the Philadelphia 76ers would be more than welcome to a reunion 5 years removed from the sign and trade decision to the Miami Heat for old Jimmy Buckets, a decision that would definitely come to regret I feel like on both ends as well. The Sixers are now plotting for a potential reunion and a trade this summer, quite possibly, that the Sixers would not only be interested in, but they would offer Jimmy Butler a max extension, according to the Philadelphia Inquirer, of course, with the reunion that could potentially be with Jimmy Butler heading back to Philadelphia, what does that mean for the lineup that they do have? Obviously, players that have come in, Joel Embiid. You've got, how that all came to be with that mix, even Tyrese Maxey at the same time. How is that all kind of gelled together? But we've seen the success that sadly has followed Jimmy Butler since his time in Minnesota, coming from Philly, then obviously into Miami at the same time with a finals appearance for Jimmy Butler in between. Is it absurd or approved? Would getting Jimmy Butler back be the ticket for Philly to get over the hump in the Eastern Conference and maybe even the NBA Finals?
Oh, boy. Just when you think that this couldn't get any more better, it does. And like you said, at the time, his time with the Heat is probably coming to an end, whatever it is. The Sixers being involved and whatnot, and that involving one Jimmy Butler. Here's what I'm going to say, and this is in no way, shape, or form me trying to get back at Jimmy, things like that, even though the Minnesota Timberwolves are in the Western Conference Finals while Jimmy is sitting and pouting on his couch. So, with that being said, I think if he were to sign with the Sixers, I think that's probably a team that that's probably a number one seed, possibly. It seems like Embiid likes him, during that time. I think the organization's a little bit different now from when it was those years ago. So I think I think it might work with that. But you also have to realize that is a huge personality that you are bringing into that locker room. Mm-hmm. And you got to have guys that are really wanting to, coincide with winning and things like that, because this guy has a lot of baggage that he brings with him, and he demands that you do it his way and everything like that, and
right.
So on and so forth. Pat Riley, I think's pretty much had enough of him. He's what I just realized? He is probably the equivalent to one Stephon Diggs. And the reason why I say that is because Diggs forced his way out of Minnesota, who also forced their way out of Minnesota, Jimmy Butler, right? And then Diggs forcing his way out of Buffalo, and he goes to Houston. And I think it was only 1 year with the Sixers with Jimmy Butler, and they had a chance to re-sign him, but that didn't happen. He didn't know who the heck was in charge and everything like that. But he had those years with the Heat. They went to the finals not once but twice. Once in the bubble and again last year. But as an 8th seed. But the thing is that this guy, you have to be wary of where his mindset is at. Yeah, he can be funny and do the goth thing and everything like that. Try to be funny for people. But you know what? What it comes down to is the guy's pretty much an asshole, if I'm being completely honest here. So I'd say, but here's what I'm saying for the Philly fans. It's got my stamp of approval because I feel like him and Embiid kind of have a good working relationship like they did back then. And Tyrese Maxey is, budding into a huge superstar for the Sixers. So they're going to be a team to watch in the East. But you have to be mindful of who you're bringing in. And right. Jimmy going back to Philly, you got to coincide with the organization. And not only the organization, but the players too. I mean, the players have to buy into what he's looking for. So, right. Or you're going to have a repeat of Minnesota, and he's going to force his way out like a bitch. So I'm just saying it like it is. Yeah, stamp of approval. I think it'll work, and I feel like they can definitely do some damage in the East. But he's burned that bridge with the Heat now, so pun intended. All right, what do you think, Voldy?
It really all comes down to the 76ers making the decision. Do we want Do we want Jimmy Butler or do we want Paul George? Now, it really also comes into they do have about $65 million in cap coming up this summer, which is more than enough to add a player for a max player extension as well. Now it comes down to whether you want Paul George or do you want somebody that's at least familiar with the team and some of the guys on there in Jimmy Butler. Now, there is a player option out for Paul George in next season, and yet he has not signed an extension with the Clippers. So the more viable option you would think would be Jimmy Butler, who was quoted as saying that it doesn't matter what city he's in, he just wants to win a title. It'd be nice if he won it in Miami to do it for them, especially a team that he's been with the last 5 seasons. But at this point, he's up for anything, and he just wants to win an NBA title. So is it absurd or approve? I think it would definitely, it's got my stamp of approval. I think it would definitely get them in the running and get them on the table as well. At Eastern Conference, we know right now with the Celtics, they're still a young enough team with a good enough young nucleus that they've got with more experience. You know, the Knicks really made some progress this year with their squad. Depends on what the Heat want to do with their team at the same time with Hero and obviously Jimmy Butler if he stays. But if the 76ers get Jimmy Butler, you definitely have to throw them in the ring. They're at least a top 4, top 5 team in the Eastern Conference. Say, you know, they could definitely be a team to at least represent the East in the NBA Finals for sure.
So, and again, I'm taking bias out of this because I think it would work with the Sixers. But, you know, Jimmy Butler said something, was it? Was it 2018, 2017, whatever, whenever that whole ordeal was at practice. He said that you can't win without me and everything like that. Well, look at the Wolves now. How do you feel now, jackass? So, just saying, they're in the Western Conference Finals. Yeah, they're down 3-1, but guess what? They can win without you. They've proven that they can. They took down the Nuggets, who you lost to last year. So, yeah, take that, Jimmy Butler, Jimmy Snake. So, anyway, great job with ARA this week, Voldy, as always.
Thanks, sir.
And we got some great Shield shout-outs tonight, obviously remembering a legend and creative consultant. So, let's get it going. Let's shout-outs.
Shield shout-outs.
All right, Shield, who you shouting at tonight?
Well, we do sadly have to say rest in peace to a true legend, and not only in the game of basketball as well, whether it be at UCLA in the collegiate level and even in the NBA, but really a cultural icon, whether it be in broadcasting or in basketball, and even a legendary fan of the likes of being a Deadhead as well. The Grateful Dead, the name escaped me for just a second, but Bill Walton sadly passed away here this past Monday as well, battling cancer. A guy that was, whenever he was on TV and he started talking, you listen, because you never truly knew what he was going to be talking about, whether it was going to be about the game or some sort of weird, trippy, mystical journey that he was going to take you on for the span of, answering one question. Then 2 hours later, he'd probably come back with an answer with the words he said. But Bill Walton sadly passed away. Of course, a NBA champion, a former National Player of the Year in college, an NBA, champion as well with the likes of Portland and even with the Boston Celtics, was an MVP, even 6th man of the year as well in his time in the NBA, battling through injuries throughout his whole career to become obviously a Hall of Famer and a champion as well, but also a great broadcaster in his time with covering games with the Pac-12 conference and even a little bit, conversation in times with the NBA. Of course, Luke Walton, one of his sons, coaching, playing in the NBA as well. Still a recognizable figure to this day, but sadly, Bill Walton did pass away. So we send our condolences out to the Walton family. But a little bit of a high note as well, a big Shield shout out to creative consultant Mrs. Sarah Ann Toosvold for a couple early Father's Day gifts as well over the holiday weekend that they actually came in on Tuesday. What's today? Wednesday. Goodness, but with the holiday weekend, kind of forcing
Close
a
enough.
few things as well. We did celebrate our wedding anniversary on Monday, 7 years strong, with of course a couple of kids in tow. So thank you to everybody that did wish us a happy anniversary, but a big thank you as well for the wonderful gifts. I know at least one of them I'm staring at over here in the corner, but there was a couple of them I can't remember off the top of my head. It's been a long week already. It's only Wednesday after a holiday weekend, but that is going to do it for Shield Shoutouts here this week.
Well, there you go. She just knows what to do. Our creative consultant just knows what to do and whatnot. Bill Walton, honestly, I freaking hate cancer, man. And that is, it is one of those things. We've all known somebody or have loved ones that have, lost their life to cancer, and it honestly sucks, man. Like you said, prayers out to the family and whatnot. And, Luke Walton, again, was head coach of the Lakers for a little bit, too. From what I gather. And obviously Walton was, he's a legend. So, great job with Shield Shoutouts this
Thanks, sir.
Voldy. Before we get into the whole deal with, the stickers and the sweatpants, the shirts, all that stuff, don't forget that our 200th episode is on the way. Now,
yes, it is.
There might be a week here and there where we won't be going, but we will be having a 200th episode celebration.
Sure.
We are working out details. Me and Voldy have been talking, and we're going to find ways to get you, the zoners, involved with this as well. To help us celebrate a great accomplishment. And the thing is we've gone 5 seasons, and we have done things that, that are fun, and things that, we rant about. And you know what? We thank you, the zoners, for doing it. For listening and watching, every week. If it's not live, it's watching later on, or, things like that. And I always get texts saying, why the hell did you say that? And I don't agree with that. It's like, well, let's talk about it then, so that's what I like doing. And thank you to all the guests, man. I mean, the guests on MinneZona Sports Live, just bring that flavor that, we can bring sometimes. But, then again, the thing is we need another perspective. But, we can only do so much, as hosts here. So thank you to all the zoners, and be ready. It's coming. So. With that being said, Shield, we've got merch. We've got merch. We've got awesome hats. We have the camo hats, and Voldy, I believe the 4th of July is starting to come upon us. Check out the red.
Yep, this one. There we go. There it is. Enjoy that.
$20, $5 shipping for you guys. And that being said, the shirts are fantastic. 5 out of 5 stars. $20, $5 shipping. The stickers, the smaller ones, $2. The bigger ones, $3. The sweatpants, $30 and $5 shipping. And the tumblers that are still available. We will get those to you. I believe, was it 10 and 5, right? Or no? What am I thinking?
What, the tumblers?
Yeah, the tumblers. Do we remember? I'm really blanking right now.
20 and 5, I think.
20 and 5.
Nonetheless, keep them drinks cold this summer here, folks.
That is correct. And we have the winter caps if you want to get ahead in winter and whatnot as well. So, just to get ahead of the curve, you know what I mean? And, you know the deal. The quarter zips, like I'm wearing right now, fantastic, very comfy. And we can get those to you, too. All right, and thank you to W2 Performance. Will Tell, www.w2performance.com for everything, keeping up to date with that. Thank you to National Fleet Graphic, Crown Rental, Tyler Knutson for the stickers, and the victorious P.O.D. with Tyler Hermann and Jack Vickers. We're getting closer and closer to the fantasy football season. Make sure you check those guys out. TLS Performance, our guy Troy Stoudemire Jr., doing big things over there. And the popcorn bucket list. Nick Dahlhoff, Ryne, Myhrberg, Omni Entertainment. They've got weekly episodes on the latest movies. So, with that being said, that's going to do it for episode 195. Before we do anything, Voldy, I did get a shirt, and as you can see here, bring
There it
ass. Bring that ass, Luka and Kyrie. We are coming for you. Go Wolves. Let's get this done. Let's go Wolves in 7. We can do it. I believe in them. Let's go Wolves. Wolves back. And acknowledge your tribal chief, nazreid. Acknowledge him. Get the towel. Acknowledge him. Do it. That's what we want to see. So go Wolves, and we will see you guys next week. And as always, remember, folks, keep in the zone.
Holla.
Thank you for watching MinneZona Sports Live. Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. for live show broadcast. And as Voldy likes to say, follow us on all the socials medias.